everyone, welcome to Midweek Gaming. I'm Nick inside the comms, of course, Justin. Another week, another video, and this one is interesting. Destiny 3. Don't click off, don't click off! I know some people hear the word Destiny and then immediately reach for the closing button.
We know.
But,
Don't worry about it.
we know. But the reason I bring this up is because there's been rumors again swirling around the Destiny community of a Destiny 3 coming from apparently some high-end leakers that are very well known for getting things right. Now, a little disclaimer. I like to think, Justin, we try not to cover leaks on this channel, or at least I try not to.
Well, we at least have in the past tried to make it as accurate and as faithful as we can. Because, Nick has, I remember Nick saying in the past, we do want to try to make things as, honest and authentic with it as possible, because we don't want just pure gospel.
Right, that's the thing, right? We try not to deal in pure gossip, because at the end of the day, leakers are leakers. Leakers say a bunch of things. Honestly, I've been hearing talk about Half-Life 3 for the universe
200 years.
We'll probably still be hearing about that until the universe dies and goes black. So, it's part of the reason, like I said, why we don't try and cover leaks on this channel too much. And because, again, it's the case of maybe they're right, maybe they're not. But the reason we're covering this one is because when you take a look at the scenery, right? You can kind of believe it. And more importantly, even if it isn't true, it's interesting to talk about in this context, right? Because for those who aren't aware, part of the reason why this leak has come out is apparently Destiny has been supposedly now started really early development for D3 and has finally caved to the demands of players. Now, why that is interesting in this context is because, again, when you look at everything that has happened recently with Bungie, it makes sense. Player numbers are in the nosedive and are probably worse than they've ever been at the moment. Sony is livid because they've announced recently that they're not getting their money back on this whole investment and that they're $200 million short of where they thought they would be in this investment with Bungie. And TLDR, it really wasn't worth the asking price. And put all that together with the fact that, Destiny is just a gigantic game at this point that, just ask anyone. A lot of people will bring up the fact that at the end of the day, D3 is inevitable because of just... It's for a number of reasons we'll get into on the show, ranging from the Tiger engine being a relic to the fact the game is so flipping large that it breaks every time something new gets added, on and on and on. And so when you put all that together, a D3 does seem like the logical choice. But again, you have to look at the other side of the coin. We've got Marathon coming out, which, love it or hate it, it is in development, and that has taken a massive swath of resources. Bungie and Destiny's team right now are smaller than they've ever been because I don't know if Sony's helping them. maybe not. But they don't have the teams they used to have at Activision. And because money and business has been drying up, my guess is profits have also been drying up. And so there's not a lot of money or time or investment really to go into Destiny. So again, when you take a look at everything, it's interesting to kind of examine the context of a possible Destiny 3. Now, the actual tweet itself, or a tweet that has talked about this, actually came out a few days back. And let me just pull this up for you because I'm referencing multiple screens right now. Here we go. Again, articles are linked down in the description if you want to cover this more. There's probably ton of articles. This one is from Tweaktown. They say Destiny's 2 performance is faltering, and despite its downfall, Bungie is reportedly moving ahead with D3, which is in very early stages. And they're going to go on about it. Again, kind of how we covered, 200 million asset write-off by Sony, dropping by 360 to 15,000 players per day. A bunch of the stuff that we covered. But one of the things they cover, if it's in this article or another one, am I going to cover the wrong article? Yeah, here it is one tweet here where it says by Cheetah Leaks that Destiny 3 is in the works, also going along the lines of Classic D2 was greenlit. A reason for the roadmap was pushed back so much. That is one leak that came out, though this is not the one I'm referencing. I think it is in this other one by Forbes. Please tell me it is in this one, otherwise it's going to be very, very embarrassing if I got both of them wrong. You have to dig that up in real time. Ew. Maybe not. Oh. I thought it was a tweet down. I could have swore I saw the leak, or the tweet there. But pretty much the tweet says, again, I'm going to have to re-dig it up and put that under. Ah, here we go. It's from Colony Deeks, which I believe is also another high-end leaguer. Yes, Destiny 3 is in extremely early development. Some of you may have seen a tweet earlier this afternoon that mentioned it. We have been sitting on the info for a few weeks now, wanted to wait to talk about this, seeing it is in such an early stage, and it just sucks to, and again, show more. So basically, the overall consensus right now seems to be that yes, Destiny 3 is, apparently according to leakers, been greenlit internally by Bungie, but don't expect anything for a hot while because it's in very, very early development. And again, this makes sense. Like I said, we've covered that Marathon is still in development, is coming out sometime, maybe early next year. They just need to get that out the door at this point, dead on arrival or otherwise. And again, just look at the size of Destiny, right? Like, we covered this before the show, me and Justin. When you compare that to something like Warframe, right? And again, I know it's an old story of comparing the two games, but it's a good comparison, right? Warframe is a game that's been out pretty much the entire time that Destiny as a franchise has been out, like 10 plus years at this point. And Warframe, comparatively, on console, at least, I don't remember what the numbers are on Steam when it comes to actual asset size, but the actual game on console, at least, is only like roundabout midway 55, 56 megabytes, or 56 gigabytes, excuse me. After 10 plus years of development, the game is only like 56 gigabytes. That's not even the size of some AAA releases for single player these days.
Yep.
And yeah, they got a new update coming out on the 10th, which brings things like new models to the Drifter and the Operator, which are very important to the story. I won't spoil them for the sake of that. It's kind of an unwritten rule, don't spoil that bit. But those models have been in the game for like quite a few years now. They're updating the faces to make them look more, well, human, and all the hairs. They've been redoing the hair textures in the game. If you know Steve Sinclair, who's now the CEO of DE, he has a thing for lighting and just particle effects.
Yes.
So he likes to kind of bring that up. They've redone the lighting engine for like the relays and several old maps and yada yada yada. They're keeping the game feeling fresh. One of the things you can say about Warframe is that it feels like a game that was released only recently, despite being a 10-plus-year-old game. And you have to remember the fact that at the end of the day, it's still only 55 gigabytes. Let's say 60 after the update that comes out on the 10th. Compare that to Destiny, which on consoles is 180 gigabytes. Now, a bit of knowledge about code for you here. Just a gigabyte's worth of code, generally speaking, depending on the language, has enough wall of text to it to fill an academic thesis. And we are at 180 something of those. So we've gone from a thesis to a whole academic library. Or as I like to call it, one dictionary. So yeah, it's no surprise that when they put something in the game, it breaks half of the game. Because there's just so much stuff to reference and move around and pieces and yada yada that it's just difficult to move and deal with. So when you mention the size, it's just too unwieldy at this point. And that's not even including the fact that, you know, now that they're no longer sunsetting stuff, that's only going to get worse as time goes on. So eventually, it is going to become critical mass. Now, you could mention something like WoW here. I don't know the size of, like, old MMOs like WoW or stuff like that. Or how big those are. But I'm willing to bet they're not 180. Just a guess. And even if they are, they probably have some way of managing that data. Now again, that's just on the topic of space. We haven't even mentioned the other one, which is the Tiger engine. Now, I don't know exactly how old the Tiger engine is off the top of my head, but it's been around since pretty much D1, D2, and I hear people say that it's actually the engine that ran Reach.
The Tiger engine, I believe so. I think it's the Tiger engine.
Yeah, so very old. Reach came out more than a decade ago.
Yes. Remember Reach.
And there... Yes.
No specific reason.
No particular reason, just remember
No
Reach.
reason I'm telling you that right now. No reason at all. Don't worry about it.
He just does that.
I'm not totally playing Reach right now.
We were gonna play Destiny, but we didn't have time to
It didn't download
again,
fast enough.
Which only goes to say my point that it's freaking massive.
Yes.
But again, the Tiger engine is old, and there are limits to what one can do with an ancient engine. Don't believe me? Just ask Bethesda, who refuses to let go of I can't remember what their engine is called, honestly, but whatever it is, they refuse to get rid of it. I've heard people say that's everything to do from the
engine. No, not the
Blam engine.
I can't remember.
Might be the Blam engine.
I want to say it's the Blam.
Let's say it's the Blam too, but we could be wrong. Regardless, just ask them. That engine is so flipping ancient that, well, it breaks just casually. Not even when they add stuff to it. It just breaks casually. So you need to update at a certain point. And while they did a little bit of an engine update with Beyond Light, it wasn't really anything like, you know, they didn't really redo the engine. Yeah, they brought up, some stuff and stuff like that, but, they haven't moved over to a whole new engine. And some things I've been seeing recently is like, imagine how Destiny would look like an Unreal Engine. What is it, 6 or 7 at this point, or 5? Unreal Engine 5, I think, at this point. Now, am I saying we should make it an Unreal Engine 5? Absolutely not. That thing is still in early days, relatively speaking. And I've been told from developers that I've been hearing that it's kind of a bit of a mess to work with at the moment. But the point is that imagine what a Destiny in a whole new, more modern engine would look like. The graphics would be so nice, yada, 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 and we probably wouldn't have as many error codes as we do now, because anyone who played Destiny can probably tell you the error codes that come with the game. Don't even get me started. Yeah, don't even get me started on the error codes that came when they released The Edge of Fate. I could not even play the game, seriously, because I kept getting booted out of the game. Not out of the world, out of the whole flippin' game. The thing kept crashing, network-wise. Now, part of that might have been me, yes, because I still get a bit of that now, but nowhere near as I did when I was playing Edge of Fate. I literally had to wait, I think almost a month or more before I could actually sit down and finish the campaign because of just how unstable the thing was. And it's probably only going to get worse from here, if I'm being honest.
Well, even...
Granted.
I don't think... What was the expansion before Edge of Fate?
Final Shape.
Final Shape. Even with Final Shape, like, the big climax to everything, for a good while, you couldn't exactly do things too easily. Like, you kind of had to sit around a little here and there with it all.
Yeah, no. Not as bad as Edge of Fate, I'd like to think. But
it wasn't as bad, but yeah, there was still a thing to it.
And again, granted, people like to joke there's maybe only like 2-3 QA guys at this point, which, the game is getting too big for that at this point, for the 2-3 QA guys to work with. But again, most people would say that D3 is inevitable at this point. It's basically... Remember, this is a good point to remember. Back when Destiny first came out, Destiny 2 even, let's not even talk about Destiny 1. Back when Destiny 2 first came out, it was still under Activision, and you may or may not remember this. But back when Activision first had the Destiny brand, and they were going from D1 to D2, they didn't want to do a D2, mind you. Nope. That was not part of the Destiny's plan originally. Activision forced that because they had hoped to basically mold Destiny into the next COD. They'd hoped to make an annual release cycle out of this thing. Every, 2-3 years, something like that. Obviously, that did not happen. But the point of the matter is that the game was created with the intent that it would eventually be replaced. Again, compared that to something like Warframe or WoW, where those games were probably never meant to have sequels. They were just meant to exist, and what is. Those player bases don't expect a WoW 2 or a Warframe 2, and as a result, people don't go to that train of thought of, hey, what about Warframe 2? It is just play Warframe. And so, again, it makes you wonder, is there some bits of Destiny that were designed specifically with the intent that they won't last forever?
It would become obsolete.
It would become obsolete. And maybe some of that design philosophy is still baked into the game. Well, those 180 some gigabytes, or 130, I'm told, if you're on Steam. So, again, it does, go back to that question of, is Destiny 3 just inevitable at this point? So, again, that's kind of why I say it's interesting to cover this whole topic of Destiny 3 as a leaked topic. Again, the articles that are referencing some of those tweets down below in the description if you want to get more into the nitty-gritties of the actual when, whys, and who said it. But I like to cover this more on a conceptual level than actually the leak itself, because, as I said at the beginning of the show, it's interesting to take stock of everything that's going on and just kind of see what's going forward. I mean, again, Bungie has to know what what's going on, right? Everyone in the community says a D3 is just inevitable, right? Like, there is a good chunk of the community that has been burned on D2. And regardless of what they do, regardless of the update that's coming out this Tuesday in Renegades, is absolutely fire. And it is indeed the Destiny Star Wars shtick that they keep promising it will be. Regardless how good it may or may not end up being, people might not even come back just because they've been burned on Destiny 2 before. And there's a good chunk of people in the community who will say that the only reason to get a lot of people back for a lot of people is just going to be seeing a 3 on the box. That's going to be what gets them back. Not the updates, not the promises, just seeing a 3 on the box. And Bungie has to know that. The numbers are terrible. Sony is very angry. Which is another side of this. It makes you wonder, is Sony kind of backing this, right? Like we were discussing before the show, right? The idea of Bungie going under. Me, I personally don't even entertain that theory. Not because of, again, a fanboy topic, but because as a man with a with an honors
in let it burn.
Yeah, no. As a man with an honors in business management, I can tell you, it makes no business sense to do that. Sony paid way too much money for Bungie to just let it all burn. That is something EA would do, and I'd like to think they're not that stupid. They invested a record sum trying to get Bungie under their umbrella, and just trashing it all, letting it all go to the fire, would infuriate their investors, so I don't see them doing that. They're going to get as much of this out of they're going to see if they can get as much return on investment out of this bad deal as they can. Because let's be honest, as I said before, earlier in the show, it is a bad deal. They admitted it. They overpaid. They also admitted that. So, again, will Bungie go under? No. But I definitely imagine that Sony is pushing them to get results. And I doubt Sony is, not been listening to the feedback either. So, who knows? Maybe Sony is throwing a bit of money behind Bungie, behind closed doors, to get D3 made. It wouldn't be surprising.
It might be.
So yeah, that kind of covers it for this show. And again, interesting to see where this is going. D3 has always been a rumor. I mean, there was a rumor circulating way back in Witch Queen that it was in development as of way back a few years ago. Yeah. Where it was in development since Witch Queen, then it was turned out that that actually wasn't the case, and it was some other game they were developing, and da-da-da-da-da, and they said that it was not in development at all, and now there are rumors again that it's in development, has been greenlit, albeit in extremely early stages, which is why some people have been hesitant to talk about it in the leaker community, because again, it's so early that it ain't worth talking about yet. Some people have said that because it's in such early development, it'll probably be a long time. Like, AAA development takes a very long time. That is true. This is also one of the reasons why development teams are so freaking big these days. I, again, referenced earlier in the show when we talked about the literal library's worth of code. So, honestly, if I had to give a guess of when we'd see this, give it 2 years minimum. 2 years before we start hearing official word on it at minimum. Maybe less, depending on how things shake out. Because you have to remember, this is already a pre-made franchise. There's stuff that they are working with here.
Yep.
And who knows how, again, if Sony's putting any money behind this, are they putting any resources behind this? Is it just internally at Bungie? I highly doubt it because they're stretched so thin, but maybe that explains why it's so early in development. Maybe that might slow things down. So we'll have to just wait and see how things shake out. Interesting to talk about, though. But yeah, that kind of brings us to the end of today's show. And hope you all enjoyed. That is kind of where we are at Destiny right now. Again, I know Destiny is kind of a dead horse at this point, depending on who you ask, but I like to cover it. I still play it, so there it is. Anyways, any closing remarks from Justin?
No, not really.
All right. Have a good one. Have a good week, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take it easy.